I'm gonna send it to the Facebook group so that it's streaming over there, and then we will get started. I hope everybody's received the replays. I've tried to get them out as quickly as I can. Yesterday was a super busy day, so it took me a little bit longer to get it all organized. They're not perfect. I didn't edit them or anything, but it's the content, so you know, that's all we really need, right? Okay, confidence over women. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so it's heading over to Facebook. All right. So I think we're ready to get started. Thank you everybody for being here as everyone's kind of logging back in now as we get going now for day 3 of thriving in long-term recovery. All right, so today I just want to ask you guys, and you can throw it in the chat. I'll look at it real quick before we get going. How are you feeling about the content so far? How have the last 2 days have been kind of a lot. I know I talk fast. I'm trying to get all this in for you within like, that 30 to 45 minute time period. So anybody have any questions or things that are coming up for you as you're sort of going about your day with the last couple of days of content? Just throw it in the chat. Let me know. Yesterday we went over, remember, the first 2 pillars, which are eliminating negative thinking patterns and transforming our daily habits and routines. We got into that a little bit more and talked a little bit about thought inventory, what that looks like. We definitely did dive into that more. That's the whole first module of the Sober Freedom Transformation Program. So we dive into that more. And then the second module, of course, is transforming daily habits and routines. We talked a lot about the morning routine. There's so many other things that are important around that area to create that thriving and long-term recovery lifestyle that you're looking for. We dig into that more, and we definitely want to do that in a very sustainable way, meaning making small, tiny changes done consistently over time so that it leads to lasting effect, right? We don't want to just do something and have it be like fleeting. We don't want it to be like a New Year's resolution, right? Where it's just, oh, the first 2 weeks is great, and then it just sort of fades off. Today, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm glad that you're loving it. And if anybody has anything else to say, just drop it in the chat. Today, we're going to look at the next 2 pillars on the roadmap to thriving and long-term recovery, which are discovering your personal core values and harnessing the energy of a spiritual connection. So we really need to know what matters to us. Now that we're sober, we need to know what matters to us the most. And that's really what the core of the core of core values. Okay, I'm going to advance this slide. Tell me if it worked. Did it work?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, so when you get sober and we start doing this work, right? We start really diving into what it means to live as a sober woman. You need to know what matters to you. Like, what are the most important things to you in life, right? Because that is kind of where the rubber meets the road, if you will, right? That's the crux of just being well in recovery. So we need to know what are the most important things. The thing about this that I'll say before we dive into it a little bit more is that oftentimes we, as young people, and then as we age, we adopt the things that we grew up with, right? So whether it was your parents or whoever were your caretakers, we take on the values of those people who were around us. That's just what young people do. And it becomes our task developmentally to discover your own. That's like actually the developmental task really in adolescence and then continues into adulthood. The challenge is active addiction kind of comes in oftentimes even before we pick up a drink, right? And so it sort of kind of strangles out our ability to understand what is important to us and what was important to other people that they told us was important. Sometimes they're the same thing. Sometimes we luck out, right? And they're kind of the same things. And there might be like some things that are the same and some things that are not great. So for example, say you come from a very I'm just going to use this because it's very easy to understand. So you come from a very religious family, right? They're practicing in a very specific religious way. And that's how you grew up. And they told you certain things and you believe them. And those were the values and the beliefs of that particular system. And so as you grew up, you kind of adopted that as your own, and you believe those things too. And then something happens. Maybe you meet a person, a partner in your life, or a friend, or an experience happens to you, and you begin to question those things and think, oh gosh, I'm not even sure where I fall in alignment with this, or if I even am. Like, I don't really know that this is actually what is very important to me. These are not the values that I actually believe in. And so you begin to discover your own personal core values in that particular area of your life, and that might look dramatically different than what you came from. It's just one easy to understand example. Another one is, say you came from a family that was extremely achievement based, or focused on success, or maybe like grades are really important, or school, and like everybody was like these high achieving, highly educated people. And so like you were taught, like if you don't do those things, then you're not going to be successful. And so you go off and continue that kind of thing. Like your dad was a doctor, his dad was a doctor, his dad was a doctor. And so you're like, well, I got to be a doctor. And so you head off in this path, and you get to college and you're like, actually, I hate medical stuff. Like, I don't really want to do this at all. This doesn't align with anything that I want. I want adventure and travel and fun, and achievement really isn't that important to me. So I hope this is making sense, but this is kind of what I'm talking about. And active addiction kind of stunts this process oftentimes, and or just completely wipes it out, because we're so self-centered in our active addiction. And then of course in early sobriety, we start to come out of that and begin to change. But this time that we're talking about now, in this longer term recovery process, we really wake up to what matters most to us. Like, now I'm this adult woman who's been sober for a little while. What are the things that I care about the most? And so our role is to get that all kind of in alignment. Keep using that word, because when we don't, our brains know that we're not in alignment, right? And so what happens when did the slide advance? Okay, what happens when we are not in alignment is things like anxiety and overwhelm start to show up. So these things are caused by the feeling that you don't know, or you don't have control of things in your life, and you don't even know how or what you want, right? So if you have a clear vision for your life and you know what your priorities are, you can really minimize your anxiety and overwhelm in your life. This is what we're going for, right? Most of us don't like to have a lot of anxiety or overwhelm in their life. And so we want things to be in alignment. So for example, I think I shared in my talk, my TED talk, which I referred to before, is one of my core values is vitality, right? So for me, that means all things health and wellness and aging gracefully, and, really living with relative happiness and treating myself with the respect I deserve. So, when I find myself kind of standing in front of my kitchen pantry, just like gorging myself on pretzel nuggets or something, my brain knows that I am not living out according to my core values. I might not be at my conscious level, my cognitive level, right? But my brain knows, this is not this is not lining up with vitality. And so then symptoms like anxiety and overwhelm start to show up. It's very subtle, right? These are subtle things that start to creep in. And so anxiety and overwhelm start to show up, and then they start to take me kind of offline and create other problems for me, related to like sleep, or other emotional eating, or the way I treat my fellows, or, any number of ways. So we want to understand what our core values are so that we can stay out of that cycle. So our past does not define us, right? You've heard this before, right? Anxiety is often heightened when we really put a lot of credence and a value on our past with our future, right? So when we believe that our past is what defines us in our future, it creates a lot of that anxiety. So example, most of us have experienced some kind of childhood trauma. We know this is very related to addictive behavior. And so if you have those things in your history, which all of us do, are you living right now like as a victim of that trauma? Are you living as a victim of abuse? Um, are you kind of staying today in those things that happened in the past? But like I've already mentioned, like, that past is not a life sentence. It's just what happened to us. It's not who we are. It's not our identity. It's just the stuff that happens. And we have to really heal that past. And a lot of that, um, we can do together in a variety of ways. Sometimes we need outside help, like with a clinician, right? Because we have major things that are creating symptomatic experiences that really need the expert help of somebody else. And sometimes it's both, right? You can be working with your therapist to deal with like extreme trauma that might be causing major problems. And then you can also do the coaching work required to kind of help you do the things that I'm doing here with you today that you're not going to get in a clinical room. They're not going to be talking to you about your core values, most likely. I mean, I might have as your therapist, but most of them probably won't. So we have to heal that past in a variety of ways. And sometimes when we do that work on healing our past, we do it in layers, right? It's like that onion stuff. Some things are healed and we kind of slough it off. And then there's like another layer. Time goes on. You have a baby, you lose your job, you get divorced, you get married, these things happen. And then sometimes they create new feelings and experience that are brought on from your past experiences. So we just want to be aware of that. We're advancing, right? No? Yes. Okay. Okay. So what are our personal core values? What are personal core values? So personal core values are fundamental beliefs, right? These are things that we create as the foundation for a moral life, right? They're things that are important to us. They're the most important things to us. And they are also things that should guide our decisions, our behaviors, and our actions. So much like the examples that I already gave you, these are things like, there's, excuse me, any number of words to describe these values, but things like family, things like achievement, things like power, things like adventure, um, uh, travel. There's any number of words to describe what your core values might be: commitment, acceptance, personal responsibility, things like that. So why are these important? Because when we know them and we really have a handle on what they are and how they can drive our decision making in our life, they reduce stress. So actual studies have shown that thinking about our values before a stressful event lowers our cortisol levels. So meaning when you're in the middle of a stressful event, or you have the next one is help with decision making, you have a decision to make, you can use these values as the lens that you look through in order to help you make that decision. Like, which value does this decision align with? So for example, when I'm standing in my kitchen and I'm trying to make a decision about what to eat, what I can take my value of vitality into account with those decisions, right? And is the choice I'm making in alignment with my core value of vitality? And most of the time we'll know, right? We will know. Sometimes we like to try to trick ourselves or not believe, what our brains are telling us. And we might make a choice anyway. And then sometimes we have a little bit of consequence from that. It might be a little anxiety shows up, or it might be discontent, or other physical kinds of symptoms. They also inspire better health, right? We just get better at all things health related when we really understand at a deep level what is the most important things to us. So I share here on the slide that it might be to quit smoking or eat healthier, maybe go to bed earlier. Values really inform our health. Okay, so the next question is, what are your core values? What are your most important things? What are the things that are the most important to you? And this is I guess rhetorical is the correct word. I was going to say existential. That might not be right. This is a big question, right? So I'm posing it to you here not to get an answer, but for you to begin those wheels turning and thinking about what are the things that are the most important to you. And when we do this work together, when we're doing it in a program, we really get into a big exercise where we list out all those words, where I show you lists of hundreds of those words that I'm talking about. And we begin to pick out which ones are the most important to us and pare them down till we get only 5, right? So, and ideally, these are not selected from a list of words. They're actually discovered. So we go through a process of discovery when it comes to selecting these values. We don't just pick the words off of a page. We let our minds get into a space, a frame of mind, right, where we are open, where we are at peace, where we are comfortable, and then we sort of receive what comes to us as far as these values, and select the ones that feel the most important to you. There's also ways to check in with this, and I'm not going to share those right now. But there's also ways to check in to see if what you say your values are actually what they are. There's a couple ways you can kind of do a check and balance to see, is this really that important to me? So when I say vitality or commitment or acceptance are the most important things to me, if I do a check and balance on that, are the ways I'm living in alignment with those? Do they show those things? So we get to do that too. So we really always have to start with a mind like a child, right? Like a beginner. We want to remove preconceived notions. We want to get into a space where we step away from those things that I talked about in the very beginning that you were raised with, right? Those things that people either told you were important to you or you believe were important based on how you grew up. We kind of get away from those things, and you open your mind to the truth that lies in your unconscious mind, yours. And again, this can be very challenging. Sometimes I hear things from women like, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, or it was just so difficult for me to discover which ones were the most important. So it turns out to be an interesting exercise. It's a lot more deep and somewhat spiritual in a way than just kind of the work we were doing yesterday. So these 2 pillars kind of dive a little bit more into the inside of ourselves, really getting to that core of our being. Some examples I've already shared with you are timeliness, intimacy, honesty, efficiency, dependability. My 5 core values are commitment, acceptance, personal responsibility, persistence, and vitality. So these are just some examples. Probably familiar with some of this work. There's 2 ways to determine these, right? You can explore events and feelings in your life to see what values are there, like what's gone on in your life that's been very, very important to you. What are the time periods or the situations or events that have occurred? And then also go through that guided exercise that I just mentioned using the lists of values. So what again is the most important to you, right? What must you have in your life to feel fulfilled? So we want to kind of think outside of our basic needs, right? Not just food, water, shelter, clothing, things. We want to really tune into the energy that lights you up, I guess I'll say. So when we think of the word joy, I was just doing this work a little bit yesterday, and when I was preparing is, what is even fun for me today? I'm 48 years old. I'm married. I'm about to be an empty nester soon. 2 of my kids are in college. And so my life is just changing. And so the opportunities and challenges and different things that we have in our life today are much different than they were, 5-10 years ago. And so I was asking myself, well, what is fun for me now? What do I like? What brings me, what is lighting up my energy today? And I'm kind of sort of right alongside you guys discovering some of those things. I mean, I know what my core values are, but what does that look like? How's it going to play out for me? And so you guys might be doing some of the reverse of that and saying, what really lights up your energy field? What really feels, has anybody read that Marie Kondo book? The Magical Art of Tidying Up. It's very interesting. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but she talks about when you're cleaning up the space, she says you want to hold each piece, each item in your hands, hold it in your hands and see if it sparks joy. That's the language she uses. So she's literally saying you're going to hold something in your hand. Everything has energy, right? Everything in the world has energy. Every item, every person, every thing. And when it comes into your energy field and you hold it, does it spark joy in you? And that's kind of what I'm going for here. Like if you're with a certain friend or you're doing a certain activity, or you are learning something new, um, that brings you joy. Those are the kinds of things we're looking for. Maybe you like art. Maybe you're creative, or you're a writer, or you really love to you love coffee and you like to explore, like, kind of fancy coffee shops. Or maybe you love to travel, and so you really want to like see new things and new people and new cultures. Maybe you love to learn and you're like, I want to go back to school and learn about this particular thing. Maybe there's a new concept in your life that's kind of bubbling at the surface and saying, come learn about me. um, so I'm just challenging you to think about this and think, what values do you need in order to honor thriving in long-term recovery? We're advancing, right? Checking in. Yes. We're not advancing. Can you see this slide? It says focus on making choices to lead to your, okay, good. Okay, so we're going to focus on choices to lead your life that aligns with your core values in the most purposeful way possible. I love that quote. It just reminds me that this is why we're doing this work. It's not just for nothing. It's not just because we should, or someone said, or I told you to. It's really to align our choices with what brings you joy. What is your most purposeful way of living? All right, so we're going to slip into this section on spirituality in general. It's a very interesting topic, right? I'm sure all of us come with our own things when it comes to this. And I am a big believer in all things for everyone, right? And so wherever we come from, wherever we are now is okay. And I really want it to be okay for you too. So I'm challenging you to just kind of ask yourself today, like, what do you believe in? And and what does that look like for you? Now, again, a lot of us might have grown up with a certain way, right? Maybe you had a family that was very spiritual or religious, even in practice, and so you grew up with a God, like a Christian God, or maybe like another way. And so you adopted that way of life, and maybe now you're different. Maybe you don't have that anymore, or maybe you never had it and you're just curious. So where do you get your energy and strength from? Now, I mentioned energy before because everything is made up of energy, right? The whole world is made up of energy. And so the pathway to recovery has to include tapping into that energy, right? And so I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm not about that. And this is definitely not about religion, but it is about the energy of the truth versus the energy of the lies, and the energy of thriving versus an energy of not, right? Whatever the opposite of thriving is, right? They're sort of being stagnant or status quo. So where do you get your energy and strength from? Some people do find it in a more formal spirituality, like a formal religion or philosophy. Some people really connect with nature, or even other practices like mindfulness or yoga. I love essential oils. We use a ton of essential oils in my home and in my work. Um, and to me, that is very deeply connected with my spirituality and my formation of energy. So it's really personal, and it can be developed over time. It's really unique to each one of us. And I just want to stress that so much, because I really feel like, especially if you grew up in a particular kind of family style, or if you were in 12-step program. I got sober in 12-step, and it didn't bother me at the time, but I know for a lot of women, the implications around a religious bent is hard for some people, right? The word God can bring up different kinds of trauma or triggers or just unbelief. And so I really like to stress that this is a process that is is really unique to each one of us, and it's also is a journey. It truly is. It's not a one-stop shop. And with the right guidance, I think, and the right tools on the roadmap towards spiritual enlightenment, if we actually, I don't believe that we ever truly arrive. I think we can all find what works for us. I hope that's making sense. So I already mentioned some things, but there are a variety of different spiritual tools that we can access. So I know for sure I use a lot of prayer and meditation in my life. To me, they are both very similar, but a little different, right? I like meditation because, well, A, there's a lot of ways to do it, right? And there's a lot of access, especially with even like free resources. I use that Insight Timer app. It's free. I think there's tons of them, probably a lot of YouTube videos and things you can pull up. And there's different themes and topics, which I really like about meditation is instead of just like free form prayer, because sometimes I'm in the mood to be like guided through something, right? Like I want someone talking in my ear saying like to breathe or telling me, statements or things and kind of guiding me through that meditation versus just me doing it on my own. I like both things. Some people really love journaling. Um, I mentioned being in nature is a form of spirituality. There's an energy from the earth, and especially if you can be outside with like bare feet on the grass, or you're literally touching parts of actual earth, we pick up that energy, and it's extremely powerful. Uh, there's other formal parts of energy work, like Reiki or spiritual. Kind of energy healers that are available to us. Essential oils are also very powerful. To me, they're like medicine. And I use them in a variety of ways, in a variety of forms. And it just helps me to feel deeply connected spiritually when I'm doing anything throughout my day. Oh. So breath work is another form that I specifically wanted to kind of just call out because it's kind of easy I mean, it doesn't have to be easy, but it's an easy way to step into kind of some of these spiritual practices without a lot of investment, right? So I always teach like deep belly breathing. So it's just deep in through the belly, in through the nose, deep into the belly, filling it all the way up. You can even place your hands on your belly so you can feel it. Just gives you another touch point to your body, and then slowly releasing it for 7 to 10 counts. So you're just deep inhale in through the nose, filling up the belly all the way, and slowly, slowly exhaling. There's a lot of research that does support that when we do breathe, especially in this way, we are oxygenating our brains. So particularly when we are under a great deal of stress or we're in a situation that's creating a lot of anxiety, when we go to the breath first, it helps to reduce the activation of the sympathetic nervous system and help you to calm down. It's it's science, so definitely have that. And box breathing is another form of breathing that you might have heard of. It's it's a rhythm, right? So it's like a 4-4-4 or 4-7-8. So you're breathing in, you're holding it for 4, and then you're breathing out for 8, 4-7-8. So if people like that kind of more formal formality, you can use something like box breathing. I don't know what is happening. I like active meditation because I don't know if you've noticed, I have a little bit of a high strung bent to me. I have like some adult ADHD, and so I have a lot of energy. Typically, I talk fast. I'm kind of moving around a lot, and so for me, especially in the beginning when I first started doing a lot of this practice about 10 years ago, I could not sit still for things. In fact, I always tell the story. Uh-oh. That I went to acupuncture for a long time, and my acupuncturist told me that I needed to go to yoga. And I said, I can't go to yoga because I can't sit in the room for 60 minutes. And she said, that's why you need the yoga. So I was like, gosh darn it, I guess I'm gonna have to go to the yoga. So I started doing some yoga formally, like in classes, and it was very difficult for me to be in a room that was quiet. I couldn't stand that there wasn't a clock. Really had a hard time like stepping into that experience. And so the idea for me of sitting like in a quiet space with legs crossed in an Om position, just didn't feel right to me at all for a long, long time. So I really liked the concept of active meditation where I could be doing something like walking but without your phone or earbuds or anything, looking around at the nature, things like the adult coloring books, or even cleaning. That's not my thing as far as meditation, but I can see how it could be very meditative if you like cleaning, and you can totally just get into it. You're like in your mind, and you're just kind of either maybe you're reciting mantras to yourself, maybe you're an active like prayer, or maybe you're just literally trying to silence your mind. And whenever any thoughts come in, you're just pushing them to the side. You're pushing them to the side. So if you're like me and have a little bit more of that high strung kind of style, if you're new to this, trying an active form of meditation might be a better fit for you as you begin to practice, and then you can try other things too. So I want you to kind of think about everything we've done now, both yesterday, well, all the days, right? We were together on Monday. I shared with you the different shifts. We talked yesterday about the first two pillars, and begin to think about how would your life improve if I could help you implement these changes? Like, what would be different, and what would be better? You know, what wouldn't you do anymore? What would you do now if you could implement these changes? So I'd like to invite you. I've had a lot of time with you guys. It's been so fun. I'd really like to invite you to come into that deeper experience, right? If you've really enjoyed what you've learned here, I know I've given you a ton of stuff. If you want to dig in deeper, you're ready. You're like, yeah, I like what she's saying. You know, this next level, this sober freedom transformation for sure is your next step. It is where I'd like you to come so that you can continue to thrive and on that journey to sober freedom. So what does it do, right? It helps you to get more clarity on what does this process to truly look for you as an individual, on natural healing, for your stress, for your anxiety. It also helps you get excited and motivated for change. I don't know about you, but change is sometimes really hard, right? And sometimes even when I know something is the best for me, I'm resistant to it. I'm like, like they told me I should do this, but I'm like not really into it. But if I have other people that are on the journey with me and they're doing the same things, and even if they're at a different like time or space, we're all doing it, we're all in it together, right? So it creates a lot of accountability for us as sober women who are doing this work. And that's why I love this group, because we are all together, we're in it together. So what are we going to be doing? So the sober freedom transformation is where I really help work with you when you're ready to discover yourself, right? To discover that identity work, to rebuild your lives, to do the work that you need in order to thrive going forward from here, to like jump off from here, right? So we walk through those skills, the shifts, and we really can create a life of meaning, of fun, and of true joy, right? So that no matter what's going on around you, on the inside, you're okay. I'm okay on the inside, even though there's craziness happening all around you. Well, we focus on helping you to reconnect with your true self. You may not even know what that is or who that is. And that's okay. That's where you are right now. But we want to make those shifts into stepping into this next chapter, this longer term sobriety chapter of your life, and create that joy-filled, more peaceful space. So what do we do? So at first you're going to get a VIP Thrive session, which is a one-on-one 30-minute session with just me. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of what you are looking for, what your goals are, what you want in your life, like, and really create that beginning of that roadmap. There's a recovery toolbox, which is my signature program, which is the pillars that I just talked to you about. We can do weekly group coaching calls where we all come together once a week. They're always recorded, of course, and they'll be housed in the private community, which we have just for our members. And you're always going to have access to me through either Voxer, which is a communication app, or Facebook Messenger, DM. So I like to provide that for all of my clients. So what does it cost? What is the investment, or however we want to talk this? Is truly an investment of, right? So it's $397 a month for a 6-month commitment. And then of course we can continue on after that, or you can pay it in a lump sum for $23.97 in full. It's really whatever works best for you. And the best way to handle this is to go to that to the site here, shelbyjohncoaching.com/mastermind. It's a longer form sales page, which I didn't want to spend time like reading to you here because, you know, I value your time. All of this information is there and so much more. Plus there's a ton of bonuses, which I don't even get into in this presentation, but there's a lot of bonuses that come also with it, like the taking control of your anxiety right in the moment course. There's some daily menus in there. There's some essential oil guide. There's a couple things. So there's also access to me once a month privately, one-on-one for 30 minutes for those people who are part of the program. So all of that is just packaged up into the Sober Freedom Transformation Mastermind program, which is just the best opportunity for us to kind of come together and make these next transitions into what I like to call sober freedom. That's how it's been for me. I felt like for so long, even in my own recovery, I felt trapped because I didn't really know who I was or what I wanted. I still struggled with those negative thinking patterns, like I mentioned. I couldn't speak up for myself, and I learned how to become a more confident woman. I learned how to speak up for myself. I learned about boundaries and how to protect myself and my heart when it was necessary. I learned those tools, and I love to share them with you. So I guess I want to open it up for you guys if you have any questions. Does anybody have any questions about anything I just said? Do you have any questions about the program? Anything at all? I want you to use that link. It's shelbyjohncoaching.com/mastermind. Everything is in that. Look, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I really hope those slides worked. Hi. Okay. So, everything is on there, shelbyjohncoaching.com/mastermind. It's a very long form sales page. It kind of goes deeper into exactly what's included, what we do. And you can go right on to any of the links there to sign up and be part of our community. I'm really lovely to have you. Does anybody have any questions? We'll be happy to hang out. So tomorrow wasn't really a scheduled day for like a whole big content, but I left my schedule open in order to create space and hold space for anybody who wanted to come back together to talk a little bit more about what we talked, more like a very informal, just like kind of a conversation. Talk a little bit more about any of the things that we talked about today, and I'm happy to do that if anybody does want to. But if you don't, that's completely fine too. I just left it open as like a kind of like a bonus day. Sound good? Okay, ladies. Well, I've given you all I've got, for the last couple of days. I hope you've enjoyed everything we've shared. I have totally enjoyed my time with you guys and the energy that we have in our community as recovering women. Please go to that link, that's shelbyjohncoaching.com/mastermind. Check it out. And when you're ready to join us, just take the plunge. You got it? Okay, cool. Barbara, you good?
I'm good. Will you be coming back on tomorrow?
Do you want to? I mean, I can.
I had kind of planned on coming on tomorrow, but
okay. I'll just come back on. I'll just be on at 1. And then that way, anybody who wants to join us, even people who maybe didn't come on for all the days or who watch the replays, can join us. And then maybe we'll just do like an informal kind of coaching session, kind of about what we just talked about over the last couple of days, or any concerns or questions you guys might have, and just kind of hash it out during our time. That sounds good.
Okay, because I had some thoughts about something that you mentioned the other day, and I kind of want to talk, mention it again. So
let's do it. All right, let's do it tomorrow.
I'm traveling tomorrow, so I was going to have to do replay anyway, so I won't be on.
Oh, I'll miss you.
I know. I'm driving to Iowa.
Okay. Work related, I guess?
No, I have a little house on a lake, and we got home from vacation 2 weeks ago and found out our roof had a leak. So my husband went there already, but I had some stuff to do here. but I have a dentist appointment there on Friday. So anyway, long story short, I have to go to Iowa.
Okay, well, we will miss you. Barbara, I will be on tomorrow at 1. And I'll see
Okay,
you.
I'll be here.
All right, ladies.
Thank
If you have any
y'all.
questions that come up after your time, just send me a DM or an email and I will happy to answer them anytime.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks a lot.
All right,
Thanks,
take care, guys.
Shelby.
Okay,
Bye.
Thank you.
bye.